Hello everybody, it's Thursday afternoon, it's Litsoc, it's a beautiful afternoon outside, but we're not outside, we're in here, and it's comfort reading or bibliotherapy because we're going into exam season for the middle school and year 12 later, and so it's what we read when we're under pressure, under stress, and just want to relax, perhaps with something familiar that we've read before. And this comes from a long time ago, doesn't it? When we first talked about putting Litsoc together, I found the blurb that I wrote in 2012.
Oh, wow.
Which said, have you got a problem with the Brontes, or don't know what to read next? We're going to sort of do a clinic, weren't we?
Yeah.
So this is a sort of clinic. And also our two... William Seeger, I think, took our idea, basically, the Poetry Pharmacy, in our two editions, and William Seeger goes to festivals and actually provides poems for people. He sits in a little tent, and Poetry Pharmacy. So there are things in here, tried and true prescriptions for the heart, mind and soul. If you haven't come across this, I do recommend it. It's some lovely, really different poems in here. There really are. So I'll kick off this afternoon, if that's all right?
Yes.
Okay. I'm having a Poldark fest at the moment. Do you know if I say Poldark, do you know what I mean? No? Perhaps you'll... Yes, Evie, you do.
My mum loves this.
Yeah. Well, when I was... I don't know. Yeah, I was in sixth form, I think. They put on the first series, which absolutely adored, and I read all the books, and I used to reread them every summer. A family saga set in the late 18th century into up as far now as Waterloo and a little bit beyond. So sort of almost Regency era, but not quite. Anyway, that's what I'm reading at the moment. But I also then, of course, remembered that when I'm quite stressed, I also read Georgette Heyer. And I mentioned Georgette Heyer a couple of weeks ago when we were talking about Bridgerton. Do you remember us talking about Bridgerton?
Yeah,
Somebody,
I do.
Yeah?
A couple of weeks ago, yeah.
Well, Georgette Heyer was the first to write about, well, she's sort of taking off from Jane Austen, as it were, but she did huge amount of research on the Regency era, the language, the mores, the way people behaved, and she is just fabulous. She also wrote detective stories, but she created this fabulous cast of characters, and this is one called Devil's Cub. Devil's Cub is the Marquis Vidal. He has a French mother and an English father who have appeared in a previous book called These Old Shades, and he is, as the title suggests, a bit of a ne'er-do-well, and he has basically, Vidal kills somebody in a duel. It's that sort of time of era, and then has to leave England. He has to leave his country for his country's good, and on the way he takes along the sister of somebody he's been trying to seduce. It's all very elegantly done, but nonetheless the women are, under siege, as it were. But the thing about Georgette Heyer is there's always, the women are always got the upper hand. They might be marrying people because they've got no choice in the upper classes, but they're very witty normally and are more than adequate for a bunch of men. And there is Mary, who is the heroine. She's very frightened, but she manages to shoot him at one point with his own pistols, which I've always enjoyed. Having departed from New Haven to France, he's taken her to France where he feels at home, and she shoots him as he's trying to get the better of her. And it's all, as I say, Georgette Heyer, which is not her real name, she she really uses the language of the period. So, for example, if you've got no money, and it's what's called thieves' cant. Thieves' cant is the language of the lower classes, people who it's utterly different from the upper classes, but she uses it frequently. So, for example, if you are got no money whatsoever, the phrase is your pockets are to let. In other words, you'll take money from anywhere that people you can borrow or people will give you, or you can steal. And it's that sort of little, which is not so little, detail that makes her absolutely wonderful. I will read you a little bit. Mary, said his lordship, may I proffer you a piece of good advice? She looked inquiring. This is after the shooting. Do not be forever arguing with me, said the Marquis. It will be very much better for you to refrain. My intentions are admirable, but I seldom act up to them, and I should not like to lose my temper with you again. But indeed, my lord, I cannot. Dear Mary, said his lordship, hold your tongue. Very well, sir, replied Miss Challoner obediently. First, Vidal said, I must urge you to keep within doors while we remain in Dieppe. I don't want a chance traveller to see you here. Miss Challoner wrinkled her brow thoughtfully. I will do as you wish, of course, but I do not think I number among my acquaintance anyone likely to be visiting France at this season. Possibly not, answered the Marquis, but I number many. Second, I much regret that it will not be possible for me to marry you immediately we marry in Paris. He's changed his mind now because she's decided that she's respectable and you'll have to give him the solace of his name. Do you mean so that you will have upon reflection perceived the wisdom of my plans? No, madam, ma'am, I do not, Vidal said. I mean that there are certain difficulties attendant upon the marriage of English Protestants in France. Oh, said Miss Challoner hopefully. The obvious course is to visit the embassy, said my lord, but since the ambassador is related to me, and I know personally at least 3 of the secretaries, the embassy is the last place I shall visit. If, said Miss Challoner, you feel so much aversion from displaying to me your numerous friends, sir, I wonder that you still persist in this determination to wed me. And if, said the Marquis with some asperity, you would put yourself to the trouble of employing the brain I imagine you must possess, you might possibly perceive that my reluctance to display to you my numerous friends arises from the motives of the most disinterested chivalry. Well, indeed, Miss Challoner said, unabashed. Well, I could scarce be expected to think that, could I? In other words, she's not going to let him forget that he abducted her and wanted his revenge. Anyway, it comes to a very extraordinary end where everybody's chasing around France and they end up in Dijon. And as everybody they're following Vidal and Mary are down France. Why on earth would you go to Dijon? And it is the last word of the... In Dijon, they all find wonderful wine and it's each other, and it's a happy ending. So that's my comfort reading, Georgette Heyer, of which there are a number of excellent books which always make me laugh. So there we go. Eleanor, do you want to come next?
Yeah, sure.
Okay. Put those away. Take my tea.
So I've already talked about my bibliotherapy in the LGBTQ one.
Oh yes.
Because that's my favourite book and still very much is. I mean, in fact, yesterday I was having a bad day and I literally just reread a lot of my favourite pages. But I was thinking more openly, what are other books that I find are bibliotherapy to me? And there's 2 books by Alice Oseman, who was actually the author of Heartstopper, but she also is underknown for her novellas, and I wish she was known more for it. Mm-hmm. One of them is Nick and Charlie, which is a sequel to, but it's like a very short novella, and it's one of those things where I just cry to it. But there's another one where I actually read it in maybe like 1.5 days, and it was a school day, and my friends got really annoyed with me because I wouldn't put it down the whole entire day. And it's called Solitaire, and it was Alice Oseman's first ever published book, and it was when she wrote it when she was in her first year of Durham University, actually, I think, and it's very, very different to Heartstopper. I don't know if a lot of people who know Heartstopper remember Tori, Charlie's older sister, but she is certainly a lovely character that is just so delightful when she comes up in the books, but she's actually also very sort of mentally unwell. and this book is all sort of her and almost like her perspective, and it's set in book 4, I believe, but it doesn't really talk about Nick and Charlie that much. There's like a couple mentions, but and I find that it's just, I could go on and for ages about it, but I would never feel like I'm using the right vocabulary to describe just how phenomenal the book is. It's so dark yet incredibly high school, and it's a lot of it is conversations between her and her friend Michael, who she meets at the beginning of the book, and about her thoughts and stuff, and it's so just interesting sort of seeing her perspective of life. It's very, very melancholy, but also just so engaging.
But
and
helpful.
Pardon?
But helpful.
Yeah, and it makes you sort of think there's so many ways you could see life in a positive way, because you sort of see how Tori sees it in such a negative way. And I couldn't think of any really... I was thinking of so many things I could read out. Like, there was one which is like all her take on Pride and Prejudice and just all these conversations that we have had with Michael. So I'm going to read out 2 of her conversations with Michael. Leave the Pride and Prejudice to if people read the book. So this is one thing in a conversation with Michael. But it's impossible. But you were so normal. He shrugs and smiles, and the raindrops on his face almost make him seem as if he's crying. There's a time and place for being normal. For most people, normal is their default setting. But for some, like you and me, normal is something we have to bring out, like putting on a suit for a posh dinner. What? Now he's being profound. Why did you need to tell me this? Why did you need to track me down? Why was it that important? He shrugs again. It wasn't, I guess, but I wanted you to know. And when I want to do something, I usually do it. And then Michael's a very interesting character. And then there's this one from chapter 17. It's like you're doing it for yourself, I say. All friendships are selfish. Maybe if we were all selfless, we would leave each other alone. Sometimes that's better. That hurts him. I shouldn't have said it. I'm pushing his temporary happiness out. Is it? I don't know why. I can't say that. Why I can't just say that we're friends and be done with it? What is this whole thing? I met you like 2 weeks ago. None of this makes any sense. I don't understand why you want to be friends with me. That's what you said last time. Last time? Why are you making this so complicated? We're not 6 years old. I say. I'm just awful at... I don't know. His mouth turns down. I don't know what to say, I say. But yeah, it's very, very high school, but there is... It's not just like there is a big thing that it all revolves around, you know. Solitaire is the big plot line of it, and it's a big sort of thing. Like, there's this new blog that's out that's trolling the whole entire school and all the teachers and everything. And, well, yeah, but no one dies.
Okay, yeah. That's nice. That's good to hear.
So yeah, this is the cover. There's quite a couple covers, but this is my personal favourite of the covers. And yeah, I would highly recommend it. It's if you like Heartstopper and you want to read it as like a sort of enlightable joy book, don't. It's nothing like that. But it is, you know, it is a sort of therapy to me, because I just the way that she just sees everything is just so interesting. So yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you, Alma.
Thank you very much. Okay. Emily, do you want to go next?
Yeah. Do my peripatetic movement again.
Good exercise was me, you know,
Thanks.
the up and down. Good exercise for anyone who would be in that position.
Yes, indeed. Yes.
Sorry.
So I have quite a few books, but I've already talked about The Sun Is Also a Star before, but I was just going to say, like, it's just really nice. It's very different to the other two books I'm going to talk about, because this one's like, it's more conversations, and it's less like adventure. It's more these two characters. It's more about their lives, and it's less about these two, which is more sad and like adventures. And well, these two, they're quite similar but very different at the same time. because this one's set in a forest. This one's mostly set overseas. But they both don't have their parents right now. And it's just like this one first. Running Wild by Michael Morpurgo. It's about this kid who's at the beach with his mum, and he's on an elephant ride, and suddenly the elephant starts to go a bit strange. It starts getting really like nervous, and then starts running down the beach, and they can't stop the elephant. And then the kid looks back and he sees it's because there's a tsunami coming. And the elephant runs into the forest and doesn't stop for ages. And so it's just his journey into the forest with this elephant trying to survive. And then throughout the book, there's one part in the book where they meet these people, but they're trying to capture these orangutans and the animals in the forest, and he has to try and help the animals. But it's really sad but heartwarming as well. It's like seeing his journey, and it's just such a good book to sit down and read in one go. And like this bit here, which is when the elephant runs. Only now did I understand what it was that had spooked the elephant, and why she had kept running all this time. Everything I was seeing filled me with horror. A warm shiver of fear crept up my spine and into the back of my neck. The sea was rearing itself up into a towering wall of green water, but I was rushing in towards the beach, towards the hotel, towards where I knew Mum was swimming. I could hear it now too. The distant thunderous roaring. People were running for their lives at the beach. I couldn't hear their screams. They were all too far away. But in my head I heard their terror. I saw boats being picked up like toys, only to disappear moments later, simply swallowed by the sea. So yeah, that's really at the beginning, and his mum dies, but throughout the whole book he's still believing that she's alive, which I think keeps him going, but it's also it's making him sad at the same time. He's trying to like not think about it that much and like trying to hide the thought that his mum is actually dead. And this, yeah.
Big Michael Morpurgo fan over there, by the way. She did a whole Litsoc on Michael Morpurgo.
Yeah, all my Michael Morpurgos I keep at home because they're really good. And this one, I read it quite a while ago, but I also remember my friend gave it to me. We swapped books to read, and I read this one while I was away, and it was so good. Like, it was every time we were in a bus ride to go skiing in places, we would be reading our books, and we just couldn't put these down, and we didn't even want to go skiing because we were too busy reading. But I think I remember it's in World War II, and in the back it says Arthur separated from his sister and sent to the other side of the world. There his extraordinary journey continues as he and his friend Marty survive brutal captivity on a working farm, finding a new family with the eccentric Auntie Meg and her animals, and discover their talents for designing yachts. 6 years later, Arthur's daughter Ali sets sail, single-handed in a yacht designed by her father, determined to find his long-lost sister in England. Can family love stretch across time in the vastest of the oceans, and will the threads of Arthur's life finally come together? So, and it's because most of the book is his story, but at the end there is, it's in a different type of writing. There's his daughter, writing about her in the yacht, traveling around the world by herself, and it's just really interesting, like, reading the whole thing. And there's this chapter that was really good. If there's one part in my life I'd like to forget entirely, it was the next 15 years or so. I suppose you could call them my years in the wilderness. I shan't enjoy writing about them, but I've got to do it. Like it or not, I can't just miss it out. Luckily for me, quite a lot of it's lost in a fog of forgetfulness. Sometimes that's what happens sometimes. Perhaps that's what's happened sometimes. Perhaps it's an automatic survival system that helps you muddle through. Maybe the memory just says, that's enough. But yeah, it's really good.
Yeah. We love Michael Morpurgo. Right, always a good one to turn to. He's very good at because some of those themes are quite dark on surface, but yeah, he's good at spinning feel-good endings out of them, I would say.
Alone on a Wide Sea when I was quite young, probably like year 5, year 4 maybe. I got it given to me at a birthday party, and I absolutely loved it. And I feel like you read it when you're young and you understand it and you go on this journey with the characters, and then I've come back to it when I was quite a bit older, and you just see it in an entirely different light and see things you just didn't before. and I really like how the first bit is just his journey from when he was little up till later, and then it's his daughter, and it's like diary entries style, I think.
Mm.
Yeah, it is.
And there's still links to the past one, which is really, I love that.
Yeah. I don't know. Know something?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
I have brought the Hitchhiker. Well, I took from up there the Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy,
Yay.
which is one of, if not my favourite books. I'd say it was one of the first books my dad recommended to me, and I love it so much. I love all the characters. I've read all the other 4 books in the trilogy. So
Get it?
They're nodding sagely, but
Yeah.
I'm not sure they.
The 4 books in the trilogy.
Douglas Adams, a wit. He was a card.
yeah, it's just one of my favourites. I don't know what to say other than that. If it's all right with you, I'm going to read a passage.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
It is an important and popular fact that things are not always what they seem. For instance, on the planet Earth, man has always assumed that he was more intelligent than dolphins because he had achieved so much: the wheel, New York, wars, and so on, whilst all the dolphins had ever done was muck about in the water having a good time. But conversely, the dolphins had always believed that they were far more intelligent than man, for precisely the same reasons. Curiously enough, the dolphins had long known of the impending destruction of the planet Earth, and had made many attempts to alert mankind to the danger. But most of their communications were misinterpreted as amusing attempts to punch footballs or whistle for titbits, so they eventually gave up and left Earth by their own means shortly before the Vogons arrived. The last ever dolphin message was misinterpreted as a surprisingly sophisticated attempt to do a double backward somersault through a hoop while whistling the Star-Spangled Banner. But in fact the message was this: so long, and thanks for all the fish. In fact, there was only one species on the planet more intelligent than dolphins, and they spent a lot of their time in behavioural research laboratories, running round inside wheels, and conducting frighteningly elegant and subtle experiments on man. The fact that once again man had completely misinterpreted this relationship was entirely according to these creatures' plans. Yeah, I just love it so much. If you haven't read it already, read it. If you have read it, read it again.
It is brilliant. It's brilliant. So,
Yeah.
thank you, Alan.
Evie?
So, my book, well, it's a series of books, and they're very short. They're not as dark as Muggle Pogo. They are the Bramley Hedge series by Jill Barkham. My mum used to have these books when she was little, and I remember she would always read them to me when I was little, and so they became like a part of me, and they've got the sweetest stories, and the pictures are just absolutely amazing. So, I mean, in this series we've got like spring story, summer story, autumn story, winter story, high hills, sea story, Poppy's babies, the secret staircase, and it's all like, it's as if these mice, it's as if there are no humans in the world. It's just these mice, and they live in like the little woodland that they live in. So they are all kind of canon to each other. So, for example, as the people who get married, the little mice who get married in the summer story, this is about them and their children and their christening. Mm-hmm. And his birthday here, his birthday and her getting lost in the woodland all come to the secret staircase, where it's like, I'm feeling it's either Christmas or New Year's Eve, but it's some kind of like wintry special occasion, and they look inside like the big manor and the big manor tree, and they find all sorts of things. But I think, just the pictures themselves are just very sweet. I mean, it says under it, he bashfully stood up and played Hickory Dickory Dandelion Clock on his new whistle. But I think my absolute favourite one of them all has to be Winter Story. So, I'll read what it says here. So, It was the middle of winter and very, very cold. The mice of Bramley Hedge forecasted snow, and they were right. In the morning they awoke to find their doors and windows hidden deep behind deep drifts. It hadn't been snow like this for years. It's enough for a snowball, cried the mice with glee, and set to work in the time-honoured way to make an ice hall for the festivities. The little mice watched wide-eyed as the preparations were all made, and at last everything was ready and the snowball could begin. It's just one of those stories that, I don't know, it gives you such like a warm feeling inside. It's just one of those stories that I would, no matter how old I get, I will read over and over again. And it's one of the just like not very well known series. It was I think published in 1980. I looked it up and I realised it was 1980, but it's always just one of those ones that I'll like keep coming back to, and the characters themselves are very funny, and they're all these different families living in the one tree. So we've got like the Hawthorne family, the Black Apple family kind of thing. And it's really nice how like Jill Barklam places these mice in a world that is just woodland. I mean, it's so organised. They have like almost like the head in like the great oak tree, the head in the great oak tree. They have the store stump, which is just a tree stump that they use as like a massive pantry. And I just love these photos and these pictures. I love, because whenever I see it, I always like to look at like all the little things. I see, there's like some. It's amazing because everything is so proportionate as well. You mean you've got some crab apples. In comparison to the size of the mice, is actually rather big, and all the tiny little jars, and it's just, something about it. It's just like, it's meant for kids, but honestly, I will read it up until I die. It's such a nice book, and yeah, that's pretty much it.
Lovely.
Thank you.
Hi. So I've got Conversations with Friends by Stanley Rooney. TV show recently came out. You ready, guys? Basically, it's got Taylor Swift's boyfriend, and it's got a song by Phoebe Bridgers, who I really love. And are you a Phoebe Bridgers fan?
No, I was just no, not at all. Carry on.
You're not Phoebe Bridgers.
Sorry. Feel like I've grossly let you down now.
Yeah,
Sorry
very
about
much. And also, it's her favourite book as well. It's not my favourite book, but it's one of my favourite books. Basically, it's Frances is the main character, and it kind of tracks the relationship with her best friend and ex-girlfriend Bobby, and they meet this older couple, not that much older. They're young adults, and I'd say the couple's in their 30s. They both have like affairs with them, but you know, we don't talk about that. Why I find this book, Bibliotherapy, I feel like it's sort of, maybe it doesn't make me happy, but it's reassuring about the complexities of life. Sorry.
You want to chime in, Alvin?
Pardon? No.
Okay.
Yeah, very unlikable characters.
Oh.
And
yeah,
terrible. They're not terrible people. That's the thing. It's realistic people, and it's like people are flawed, and there's something really comforting about that, I think. There's sort of this. The prose has a real. No, sorry. But yeah, I would recommend it, but maybe not as Bibliotherapy. The prose has a real intimacy to it. She doesn't use speech marks. It's very.
Oh yes, yeah, it's the modern way. Yeah.
It's very abrupt, but it's also poetic, I guess. Yeah.
Have you read her other one as well?
Yeah, and also her new one.
Oh yeah,
Beautiful
World, Where Are You?
Yeah, I didn't like that one as much.
someone was reading that on the train yesterday. My mum pointed it out.
She's very popular.
She's hugely popular.
She's very popular.
It's the sort of thing you see people
love
on the
her or
train.
hate her.
Yeah.
Yeah, what else was I going to say? I think that's it. Complicated relationships, complicated people. I love the ending because there's sort of no resolution. And that's just true in life. It carries on messy and complicated, and you feel better and you feel worse. And Frances deals with chronic pain, and she's got so many things going on in her life, and she's a writer, and it's just so like raw. Yeah. And basically the point of this book is there are no answers. I don't know, that's what I got from it. Yeah, so I would definitely recommend it. But yeah, maybe not as bibliotherapy.
Well, it depends on how you look at it.
No, I don't know.
Yeah, because as you said, it's like reassurance in the messiness and the complexity.
Yeah. Other people go
Yeah.
through it.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Reading is empathy, you remember? Reading is empathy.
I'm not.
Did you have something to say?
No.
Are you sure?
Yeah, no, it was just that she was talking to my mum about it yesterday, so I've
Ah,
heard all this.
okie doke. Righto.
Okay.
Hello there.
I've got a very old book from 1999.
That's not old. That's 1899 maybe.
But it's not that old. But it's Mopatop's Shop, Upsy Daisy. And my mum used to read that to me when I was a child to put me to sleep. And I just fell in love with it. And I've had it for so long that the pages are starting to come out.
Oh. Well used.
Yeah, but I still have it. And every time I'm just like kind of feeling like stressed. Because when I was revising, I just like get that book out and just start reading it again. Because it always used to make me laugh and fall asleep. So,
Yeah. Laughter's a good medicine
very-
when you're stressed, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a very nice book.
Do you still read it often now?
Yeah, I do still read it because I do.
Okay. Do you want to read a bit to us? Just a little bit maybe?
Or can you tell us what it's about?
Or if you can't, yeah, if you haven't actually got it there with you.
I brought a little copy of it, but it's all about obviously Upsy Daisy running her shop, and then she's got some very unusual visitors, and there's this button that one of them drops off, and it basically turns the broom upside down. So there's a little picture here. It's when they're when they're turned upside down. But yeah, it's just really cute, and the way that they're actually represented, the characters, they're actually represented as the way they would be in like real life as puppets. But it's just really memorable and really funny. But it's kind of short. Well, the one on here is short, but it's not really like a big book like everyone else has. It's a small, thin book, but it actually does express a lot of things and a lot of emotion and a lot of funniness.
Right.
Excellent.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you there.
Miss Rio? Sure.
So I haven't got one book in particular, but more, well, I'll talk a bit from that one, but more a theme of books, which is books about books, and books about reading and how good reading is. And I picked out a few. So this one is like short stories from a man that worked in a library and all the people who would meet in the library. This one is just lots of different writers writing about how much they like books and things like that. And I just find that comforting sometimes. Because I don't know, there's just a comfort to
There is a comfort reading.
how nice books are. Yeah, I can't. It's
There
sort
is,
of
yeah.
not quite explainable in the same way as like, oh, it's escapism or it's funny or it's sweet. It's just, I don't know. It's
Every book's
just
different,
nice, isn't
Every
it?
book's
Yeah.
got its ideas packaged within it. So
Yeah.
It's, and also to see what other people get from books.
Yeah, and to know, I suppose similar to what you were saying, is that to know other people feel the same way about something as you do. You know, you read these people's opinions and like, oh, they like books in this way just as much as I do, and it's kind of, there's a comfort to that. But I'll read a bit from this one. This is Kathy Rensenbrink. I went to the Bath Festival this weekend, and I saw her speak, and she was really good. She signed my book, which is nice.
ooh, excellent.
She did.
Hey.
But she was great. She's a very good writer. She writes mostly non-fiction, but she wrote her first novel this year, which I haven't read yet. But this is a book called Dear Reader, The Comfort and Joy of Books. It's just a really nice book. But I'll read a little bit from it for you. This chapter is called Dreaming of Narnia. Last night I dreamt I went to Narnia again. I stood under the lamppost, felt the snow crunch under my feet and shivered despite the warmth of my fur coat. I didn't know if I had arrived in happy or dark times. Was this an ordinary winter or the endless reign of the White Witch? Would I be brave enough for the challenges ahead, or would I succumb to the lure of enchanted Turkish delight? I don't know what age I was in the dream, if I was the woman I am now or the girl who stepped into the wardrobe when she was a child. I've been dreaming of Narnia almost all of my life. Where did it begin? Reading has always been a great source of comfort, knowledge, pleasure and joy. It is the most central aspect of my identity. The truest thing I could say about myself is I am a reader. Growing up, I often preferred reading to engaging with real life. Lost and sad in my late 20s, I found consolation when I got a job in a bookshop. When I briefly dallied with internet dating, I described myself as amiable bookworm. Pregnant with my son Matt, I patted my bump and dreamed of the books we would read together. The first thing I do in any new place is look for the bookshop and the library. When I make a friend, I wonder what sits on their shelves. Yeah, it's just it's really lovely.
Yeah.
But think anything in that kind of ilk of just how nice books and reading are is always just comforting to me. But yeah, I definitely recommend this one. Do read it. She's such a good writer. There you go.
Absolutely, yeah.
That's fine.
I can see what this one is.
So we're not really meant to do this, but please do judge it by its cover because it's absolutely battered and sellotaped and really, really loved. All the sparkly bits are rubbed off. I've read it so many times and it just looks awful. I've actually just bought a new copy of it because I'm so ashamed it just looks awful on the bookcase. But it's really well loved. So I have been rereading this since year 6 and it is probably one of my books that I do read to just switch off. It's got, it is just basically a fairy tale and a rewrite of Cinderella, and when I've reread it, it actually answers a lot of the questions I had about Cinderella, which is why does she put up with everybody ordering her around? In this, it actually explains it, and she is under a curse, and it is the curse of being obedient, so she has to do whatever anybody tells her to do. As a not particularly well-behaved year 6, the idea of being forced to be obedient sounded horrific, so I really identified with the character rebelling slightly there as well. It says, I know we've got some Harry Potter fans as well, so it says on the back, if you loved Harry Potter, try Ella Enchanted. So the author is Gail Carson Levine, and it's a really, it's such a charming book, and even now I still really enjoy reading it to switch off, and you can't go wrong with a fairy tale. I will read a little bit of it, but I'll just start with the blurb so you've got a little bit of context. So it says, Ella can't wait to be free of Lucinda's gift and feel that she can be herself. But it just isn't that easy when she knows at any time anyone can order her to hop on one foot, cut off her hand, betray her kingdom or marry a prince. And it has ogres, giants, wicked stepsisters and fairy godmothers, so you really can't go wrong. Unlike Jurassic Park, which I will mention again, it is suitable for everyone, so year 7 upwards to teachers will absolutely love having a read, so I would really recommend it. There was a film made of the book. I would not recommend watching the film if you like the book. So
when you said the curse thing, I recognised it.
Yes, I would stay away from the film with respect to the director because I don't think they love the book as much as I do if I was making the film. So just a slight disclaimer there. I'd love to read a little bit of it just so you get a feel of it. So just for context, the main character is obviously Ella. Mandy in the bit I'm about to read is the housekeeper, so that's who everyone is. So instead of making me docile, Lucinda's curse actually made a rebel of me, or perhaps I was that way naturally. Mother rarely insisted I do anything. Father knew nothing of the curse and saw me too infrequently to issue many commands. But Mandy was bossy, giving orders almost as often as she do breath. Kind orders, or for your own good orders. Bundle up, Ella, or hold the washing, or hold the bowl while I beat the egg sweet. I disliked these commands, harmless as they were. I'd hold the bowl, but move my feet so she would have to follow me around the kitchen. She'd call me a minx and try and hem me in with more specific instructions, which I would find new ways to evade. Often it was a long business to get anything done between us, with Mother laughing and egging each of us on in turn. We'd end happily, with me finally choosing to do what Mandy wanted, or with Mandy changing her order to be a request. When Mandy would absent-mindedly give me an order that I know she didn't mean, I'd say, "Do I have to?" and she'd reconsider. When I was 8, I had a friend, Pamela, the daughter of one of the servants. One day she and I were in the kitchen watching Mandy make a cake. When Mandy sent me to the pantry for more almonds, I returned with only 2. She ordered me back with more exact instructions, which I followed exactly while still managing to frustrate her true wishes. Later, when Pamela and I retreated to the garden to eat the cake, she asked why I hadn't done what Mandy wanted straight off. I hate it when she's bossy, I answered. Pamela said smugly, I always obey my elders. That's because you don't have to. I do, or Father will slap me. It's not the same for me, I'm under a spell. I enjoyed the importance of these words. Spells were rare. Lucinda was the only fairy rash enough to cast them on people. Like Sleeping Beauty, except I won't have to sleep for 100 years. What's your spell? And I told her. If anybody gives you an order, you have to obey, including me. I nodded. Can I try it? No, I hadn't anticipated this. I changed the subject quickly. I'll race you to the gate. All right, but I command you to lose the race. Then I don't want to race. I command you to race and I command you to lose. We raced, I lost. We picked berries. I had to give Pamela the sweetest, ripest ones. We played princesses and ogres. I had to be the ogre. An hour after my admission, I punched her. She screamed and blood poured from her nose. Understandable. Our friendship ended that day. Mother found Pamela's mother a new situation far away from our town. After punishing me for using my fist, Mother issued one of her infrequent commands, never to tell anyone about my curse. But I wouldn't have anyway. I had learned caution. So that gives you a little taster of the book, and do give it a read. So it's one of my favourites. Thank you.
Sienna, you got something you want to talk about?
Well, I have a little one. So I wasn't really sure what to talk about. I hadn't really thought of it. So I was thinking, there was a book that I have. I don't know when I received it. I just know it's very old and battered now. It's called Rooftoppers. I've probably
Recognise it, yeah.
I just remember reading it so much when I was younger, and it's one that I've kept on coming back to. It's very heartwarming in a nostalgic way, because it's about this girl who, as a baby, she survived the sinking of the Titanic by her mother putting her in a cello case and floating her as it sank. And that is how she survived, because a musician picked her up and found her and raised her. He is very sweet. And it's about her when she's a bit older. She goes to France, to Paris, to find... I don't actually remember.
Doesn't she go and try and find her father?
I think
She's trying to find her mother.
Trying to find her mother, but
Yeah.
it's,
I think it's
I
like
can't-
the
you're right, I
records.
can't remember
I think
how
it's
on
the
earth they end up
records
in
of how
Paris.
her mother died.
Yeah, they go and
Yeah.
visit the police, don't they?
Yeah, she breaks into a filing cabinet because I was fascinated with the way they did that scene of picking the locks. I
You
thought
want to
it
learn a
would,
new skill.
I thought it would be so cool to learn a new skill. I did not achieve this goal, unfortunately. I just it.
Locksmiths earn an awful lot of money, I can tell you.
It's about her in Paris. She meets these people these other children who also live in Paris, but they live on the outskirts and the hidden parts of the city. They live in trees and on rooftops, and it's so cool in the way that they've got such a sense of community, but they're so isolated in the way that they live is so different to normal people, and it's her discovering that. I just really like it.
It is, it's lovely. We've done it with year 7.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right
Well,
there.
we've done a little bit of it from year 7.
I don't think anybody I've spoken to has heard of it.
No, it's
Yeah, I read it when I was younger.
Have you two read it?
I stopped midway because it wasn't my cup of tea. But
Once when I was younger, I can't really remember. We did it for our exam.
We for year 7, yes.
Yeah.
But that's a new thing for year 7 this year.
It's a new thing. Yeah, so we
Uh,
looked at
no.
Rooftoppers
We did
as
Alice
part
in
of their
Wonderland.
big anthology.
Miss Milton had an ear for why I hated that book. I hate Alice in Wonderland.
But anyway, Rooftop is it's a few years old, and it's great. It is you're right. It's very uplifting.
Yeah, and also another one. It's part of the White Giraffe series by
Lawrence St. John.
Yeah, I love the whole series. I've read all of them. But the second one specifically is the only book that I have. I have the second and the fourth in the series at home. So I could never read them fully without taking them out of the library, which I have done. It's the second book specifically, Dolphin Song. I absolutely love it. So basically, she goes on a school trip, but they're in Africa. They go on like a boat to see the migration of something. They go to see a migration on the ocean, and the boat gets shipwrecked, and her and some of her classmates wash up on an island, and it's basically them surviving. It's really good, and it's very sweet, but obviously,
Lord of the Flies.
yeah, slight Lord of the Flies vibes.
But
Less violent.
Yeah,
very less violent.
They deal with it better than those boys did in Lord of the Flies.
They do. They have a bit of conflict, but ultimately it's very sweet. There was some close calls. Quite a lot of stuff happens, and it's also to do with the wildlife, with the dolphins, and things they have to figure out while they're on the island, and nobody knows that they're alive. And she has a singular survival pack, and none of her other classmates know how to do anything. So it's basically her trying to keep them all alive.
Oh, okay.
And it's really good.
Yeah.
Okay.
You should all read it.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay. It's you. Very short
I'm going to be quick because I've got a sore throat and a cough, as you've probably noticed. So I've got The Joy of Small Things by excuse me, Hannah Jane Parkinson. Now, she's a journalist, and if you ever feel like overwhelmed, the world is getting you down, and you're feeling stressed and there's too much going on, this is just a reminder to just find, as it says, the joy in small things. And they're broken down into little chapteroids. We've got what have we got? The perfect dressing gown. Ice cream vans, clean bedding, petting cats. Yeah, a little sausage dog on the front cover there as well. So,
ice cream van from last week.
Yes, exactly. There you go. So that's why we had that for
The cat that comes in.
Oh, the cat does. He does. Yeah. Yeah, you see him in a quad. So just see how much joy that little thing brought all of you. So I'm just going to read, I'm not going to read the whole thing, I'm just going to read a little bit from one of the things that she's got here, the to-done list. The to-done list is the art of writing down all the things I have done. I get the same boost others do in completing something on their to-do list. It's just that in adding something to a blank page, I'm not reminded of all the things I have yet to do uncrossed out. I think I'll just read that bit, actually. So, absolutely. So, as you're revising, as you're sort of putting your timetables together, don't just think about what you've got to do, think of what you've done and feel a sense of achievement. Thank you.
Well, we wish you all Year 10 as you continue your exams, and Year 8 all the very best. Year 7 all done, isn't it? Yes. Just get them back next week.
Yeah, looking a bit smugly.
And, yes, it's exams next week, and then Year 12 after that. So all the very best, everybody. And so we won't be here next week because everybody's in exams. But keep well and take care.
And keep reading.
Yeah, keep reading. Okay. Bye,
And we'll
everybody.
see you after half term.
Yeah.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.